to say that it wasn't over, which seems in contrast pretty starkly to what the White House says about this. What do you make of what she said?
Well, I thought Nikki Haley, part of it was echoing, I think, what Senator Collins said, which is, as much as you'd like to go back past and some would go back and redo the election, many of these allegations were heard. But if there's new ones, there is such a thing as free speech, and there's a such thing as, obviously, media coverage is, I think, okay, and probably will happen and should. But here's the thing: when people call on Congress to investigate, there's a $17 million slush fund that Congress paid out to people. They haven't even confessed and put that out. So the idea that Congress is going to clean up itself.
So they're working on that. That's one of the bills that's one of the bills that's been proposed.
And CNN did a great job covering that. I think that's important. But now we have judicial members, judges who've been accused of things. They have to get it. I mean, look, we have elections when it comes to the presidency about whether you think this is, disqualifying. If they have a complaint otherwise, then come forward. But again, a lot of this is politics, and the American people are not. My old boss, Kate Phyllis Schlafly, once said, "We don't elect a pastor, we elect a president." I think a lot of people are looking up saying, okay, lots of things going on with every president. And like the book on Obama, the new biography about his life, I don't think we should go back and litigate that. We should go forward. And
I will say, when it comes to this sexual harassment conversation that is going on around the country, I think just saying that there's so many of them, and I don't know if that's your implication, but there's so many of them, how do they have time to investigate? I don't think that's a good enough excuse. I think maybe if there's a lot of them, there's a reason they should all be investigated. But Angela, let me bring you in on this. When it comes to Ambassador Haley, what does that say about her position within the White House or with the president? I mean, do you think anyone else could say this and survive?
Well, I'm expecting a tweet from Donald Trump responding to Nikki Haley in T-minus 2 minutes. As soon as your segment goes off, he's going to be tweeting about Nikki Haley. Absolutely. I think one thing that I do want to go back to as the resident protector of all things Barack Obama's legacy, he has never been accused of sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, or sexual assault. Yes, I just named myself that, Kate. And I think it's very important that we make a really big distinction here. I think that if we're all honest in this segment and we can lay all partisan differences aside, if there was any member of Congress in the upper or lower chamber, if there was any state senator, state legislator whatsoever, if there was a mayor, if there was a city commissioner who said on tape the things that Donald Trump has said he did on tape, and then there were stories that came out not from 1, not from 2, not from 5, not from 10, but from 16 women that had parallel experiences with an elected official, he would be under the jail, definitely impeached, and not sitting in office. I think we have to be honest about the fact that for whatever reason, he has been Teflon Don from the moment he came down the escalator. This has to be dealt with. And you can groan, but it's true. And I might not be electing a pastor, but I definitely want to ensure that someone who sits in a place as commander-in-chief can set an example for my 5 godsons, my 1 goddaughter, and for the baby that Kate is carrying right now.
I'm gonna say it. Don't bring my baby into this.
That's in a good way. That's in a good way to set a good example. That's a good example, Kate.
Ed, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know what the standard is here. I mean, Al Franken confessed, had pictures of his conduct. People have, and the president has denied these things. And so, again, I mean, if we're going to go through, line up all the senators and let's have hearings. I've called for Al Franken to chair hearings where every allegation in the last 40 years against every sitting senator shall be brought forth.
He's resigning.
And when we do that,
I feel like you're trying to have it both ways, my friend. You're saying let people be heard, and then with what comes out of your mouth next is diminishing the words people are saying and what's coming out of people's mouths.
No. They get to say what they want. The question is whether they're believable. And if the president says he didn't do what they accused him of, the voters voted. At what point do we keep going back and rehashing this? I just don't get it.
No, I know you're raising the question, and what the women who spoke out this morning said is they think that this is a different moment in this country, and they would like it to be looked at. You clearly feel very differently. Caitlin, there are 3 Democrats who've now come out and called on the president to resign based on, I'm just going to call it the Al Franken model, right? Sure. It happened before he was a senator. It came out since. Is there anything serious about them actually coming out to say this?
Well, these are all Democrats, but it does speak to the underlying kind of, or the hope of that could be an implication of Democrats with Franken, with Conyers, with others, saying that, look, we've taken care of this on our side, putting the spotlight back onto Republicans and Trump, especially ahead of this Alabama Senate race, which will be very interesting. I mean, this is why the Trump endorsement kind of matters here beyond this Senate race, because the Trump endorsement of Moore seems to, overlook.
And I also want to bring this up really quickly because we've talked about this a lot, and David Chalian brought something up earlier, Ed, that I want to get your take on.
Okay.
Leave all of the allegations of molestation and inappropriate behavior aside. This is a man who had a long history, and that's why a lot of Republicans already had departed from him before these allegations had even come out, that homosexual conduct should be illegal. The only thing that Islam has given us is 9/11, and that he just said, and it was just last year, he said that he still didn't think that President Obama was born in the United States. That's just 3 examples. How is that not a problem for Republicans should he be in Congress?
Well, look, I've answered this question a lot the last day or so. To me, it's the end of the campaign, and people are taking the most extreme things he said, a lot of which I don't know when he said them or how he said them, and they're making them sound like it's the end of the case. I mean, here's the thing.
No, Ed. This is like the 3rd time, I think, maybe even just to me, that you've given that. You've said that you haven't heard the context and you don't exactly know when these were said. If you have time to look at it, I can go through them right now if you want.
But if you have time for me to answer each of them, I can. But I don't think what I'm saying is it's the Alabama voters know the guy for decades and they can do it. I mean, if you want me to answer each of them, I can.
Well, let me add one more. I want you to answer this one. Tell me why, when he was asked when America was at its greatest at a campaign rally, he said it was at its greatest during slavery. Tell me why he said that.
That's not what he said.
That's not what he said. So he said that families loved each other then. So tell me what was great in family. Tell me about that one.
No, but that's not.
Give me a final note, though. I want to know how this is not, no matter if it's extreme or he said other things, he still said these things, how these are not a problem if he makes it to Congress.
He's getting elected to the Senate. When he gets to the Senate, he's going to have to vote on things. And slavery is not going to be voted on in the Senate, and it's not neither is homosexuality. And here's the thing: let's be clear, because it's such a slur against him. What he said was families still love each other when they existed. People in bondage, when the Jews were in bondage for years, they still loved each other. The point is that there can still be great. No, I'm not kidding you. Listen to what he said.
You're going to hedge on slavery? Can you just acknowledge right here on this program?
No, I'm not. I'm condemning slavery. I'm condemning slavery, and so does Roy Moore.
But that's not what he did. That's not what he did. He talked about no, he didn't. He said America was at its greatest during slavery when families loved each other.
Go listen to what he said.
The statement was the last time that America was great. And he said, I think it was great at a time when families were united, even though we had slavery, they cared for one another.
People,
you want to endorse that, Ed?
No, that's not. But he didn't say that's what we need to go back to for greatness. He said when there was slavery, it's a terrible thing. I denounce it. But there were still families that loved each other.
You're adding stuff. That's not what he said.
We're not. Slavery's not going to be voted on in the U.S. Senate, is it? We're all against it. I'll lead the charge.
Ed, I'm going to stop this right now. I know. Believe me, Angela, you're going to be mad at me too. But Ed, on the face of it, it is not acceptable to say just because I don't think he's going to have to vote on something
that
this statement doesn't matter. We have no clue what's going to be coming up. And I'm not saying it's going to be the issues we're discussing right now. But statements that are said in public, these were not in private, these were not anonymous sources, but statements that are said in public are statements that traditionally that's what politicians should and are held accountable for. They can't be held accountable for statements they have made in public. Then what the hell are we going to vote on? What the hell do we hold them for account for?
But Kate, he did not say he was for slavery. He did not say slavery was a good idea. We should bring it back. He described
if you want a more
family.
stark example, homosexual conduct should be illegal. That one was pretty straightforward.
That one?
Don't you agree that there are people that have a position that they think homosexuality is wrong, but doesn't mean we want legislation like that? I don't support that. So,
but your president just tried to ban transgender people from the military. Of course they're voting on this issue. Of course they're up for debate.
That has nothing to do with homosexuality, transgenders in the military. Nothing to do with it.
You know what I support? I support you all not being able to get Viagra in the military then. This is ridiculous. You all. Men.
He's talking about men.
Okay. I wasn't sure what group she meant.
Seriously.
I'm talking about men. I'm talking about all the men
Get
who are
the vapors.
She
said you all, and she meant men.
Yeah, I'm talking about
all right.
men folk.
I'm not in the military. I don't know. I mean,
Men.
I'm stopping all of you. And I'm not a man, at least.